and one other guy that was all in leather, and it was really tough to tell where the leather ended and his skin began.
Welcome to 10-Minute Travels. With me as always is Phil Freeman.
And with me as always is Shane Patrick. And today we're going to talk to Willie Costello, train conductor.
Let's get right to it, shall we?
When I worked at the railroad, never firsthand, but I mean, people got killed. I wouldn't say a lot, but it happened. You know, there's a lot of drugs. There's schizophrenia, or mental illness. A lot of that train riding appeals to that group of people, and people, they would find dead bodies in the cars or near the yards.
From reindeer games going bad, or just a lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, I know the one that happened at like the smaller yard that we would go to in Western Maryland. They found a dead body in an abandoned car just outside the yard, and what that ended up being was two guys who were both train rider, like for life, got in a fight over this girl that was train riding. One guy killed the other guy, stuffed him in this car, but then it turned out that the girl they were fighting over was a professor at NYU that was like riding trains for a social experiment, and got involved with like one guy and another guy, and then those two guys got into a fight, and one guy killed the other guy. But
dang,
yeah,
and they all had mohawks.
I never saw those guys. Like a lot of mohawks. There is a lot of mohawks.
Wow, intrigue, huh? It's
mohawks and coveralls.
It's good to know that Shakespeare, that type of drama is everywhere. You can't escape it.
Oh, did you ever see people with a stick with a bandana tied on the end full of their possessions?
Yeah, like full-on hobo.
No. I'm trying to think. No, because I did. There was one time. It was pretty bizarre. And it was, I'm going to say Easter. It was some holiday where, I mean, you had to work like holidays don't mean anything. But we come into the yard. There's nobody in the yard. We're coming in. It's like 5 a.m. I'm getting down to, like secure the train and tie the brakes. And this whole group of people, there's like this little wooded patch. And it's like 8 people just start walking across the yard towards me. And it's pretty much one of every flavor. There's like the shirtless dude. It's chilly still, but the shirtless dude with really bad tattoos, like from forehead to waistline. The girl it's like, it's like you, I'm sure you're really pretty and you're still kind of pretty, but you are definitely living a lifestyle where you're not going to be so pretty anymore. And the one guy that, I mean, he looked like Conjunction Junction. He had the blue and white striped overalls and a big, clean red bandana and the big engineer's
He
hat.
shopped the hobo catalog.
He did. And one other guy that was all in leather, and it was really tough to tell where the leather ended and his skin began. But they're like walking broad daylight, and a major train hub like Richmond is called Acca Yard. It's big, and I mean I can see there's no one else around, and they're coming straight towards me. I didn't really feel threatened, but I was kind of like, what? And they're like, where's this train going? I was like, nowhere. Like, well, eventually. I was like, I don't know. I was like, south. And they're like, but where? And I was like, you guys need to get out of here. Because when you're in the yard, there's a guy, the yard master. And so there's a guy that, controls all the traffic of everyone trying to do everything. And they're in a tower. It's not quite like flight, but I'm like that. Like they're looking like they are calling the police or, the railroad police right now. I was like, I'd love to help you guys, but A, this isn't going anywhere. there are no other trains, and they're calling the police. They're like, well, and they kept asking me questions. I was like, I'm tired. I'm going home. It's Easter, whatever holiday it was. I was like, you need to go. Like, I'm sure I'm kind of in trouble now for not calling it in, even though it's very obvious what's going on.
It was nice to have the Magnificent Seven soundtrack somewhere permeating around. Wasn't it?
So not the full-on bag on the stick, but you would definitely, there was, like I said, like conjunction junction guy. And it was funny because they looked like people who should know, but I was like, you can't be here. And it's like, you need to go away before I get in trouble too, because depending on who was in the tower, it's like, why didn't you call that in? We had trespassers. Or obviously I saw them, and you don't have to be a dick to these guys. And I was like, just go. Like, you gotta go.
What is it trespassing?
Yeah.
So, couple $100, it varies.
Yeah, I think
It goes up, because that was, there was another time, because it's trespassing, if they choose, like, impeding the progress of the train is a charge. Like, if we have to stop to get you off.
Yeah, throw you off schedule and whatnot.
Right. So, it depends on who gets caught and what happens. But
it's a misdemeanor, right?
I don't know.
The first time trespassing, I think you could get a ticket. Usually they just tell you to go away. But since, it's the railroad police, like they have your picture, and the second time, like, it becomes more aggressive each time you do it. Because we were hanging out at a little brew pub, like it was kind of an industrial area near the tracks where we worked. It was me and a couple other buddies I worked with. We were hanging out there. And before we saw them, we saw the CSX, was the railroad. They came into the park because we're sitting outside. They come into the parking lot area. And they're like, you guys seen any, or mysterious people? Or I forget how they worded it. We're like, dude, we're on the like. Finally, I think somebody told something. It's like, we work for the railroad, train riders. And they're like, yeah, we chased them off the train. We're looking for them. So like, we haven't seen anybody. So they drive away. A little while later, we see obvious train riders and their dog coming by. And we're like, hey, come here. And they're like, what? And so we were like, CSX police, they're looking for you. They're like, oh man, this is like the third or fourth time we got you. Like, we're going to be in big trouble. I was like, all right, well, so we ended up having a beer or two with them. We're hanging out, we're trading stories, and, we're getting ready to leave. We're like, well, like, what are you guys going to do? They're like, well, we need to keep going south. It's like, all right. So I put everyone in the back of my truck because in Richmond, Virginia, there's CSX, and there's also Norfolk Southern. It's a whole other train line. I was like, you can't go back to CSX. Like, they are really actively looking for you. But I'll drive across town with you ding-dongs, and I'll drop you off at the other train line, which is no problem for me. It's like, you need to get on a train going south from a whole different train line. And so I took all those guys. I think by the time we're done, we gave them hats and some coats and stuff. We took them to the other train line, and we're like, all right, I have no idea what their schedule, I don't know anything about this, but hang out here and catch a train south.
What I do know is they don't have your picture yet.
Right. Or I was like, yeah, out of my hands. I did what I could.
What, if you were going to tell someone to hop a train, what do you need? What's in your go bag? I mean, obviously you want to travel light. What kind of dog do you have?
Smaller dog. I saw a lot of pit bulls, reconfirming my opinion that if you don't train a pit bull to be a dick, Pit bulls are super awesome, sweet dogs.
Yeah.
You definitely want to be light because even at its slowest, you're jumping on a moving train, and if you get off, like, if you go, you don't get hurt a little bit by a train. So you want your bag, you want your stuff, but you want to be light so you're mobile. It's like probably just one change of everything. Sleeping bag, first aid kit, some food. Again, even when I went, like, probably not canned food, or at least not much of it. Keep your food light too, and then when you stop someplace, go eat or go buy something. Raincoat for sure, and it goes with everything. It's like, maybe you're not going to change your underwear, so throw an extra pair of socks in where that would have gone. Trash bag or a blue tarp goes along with, like, kind of the staples. Is like if you have a Leatherman and a small sewing kit, duct tape, and a blue tarp, it's going to fulfill a lot of what you need.
That was Willie Costello, train conductor. If you want to learn more about Willie or listen to more 10-minute travels, you can check out 10minutetravels.com.
And we definitely want to remind you to make sure that your sense of humor matches your sense of adventure.